Hey, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and what a delight and an honor to have back with us today Dinesh D'Souza. Of course, he's formerly a public analysis person there in the Reagan White House, writer, scholar, filmmaker, quite the speaker, and even a former inmate. Now, when do you get all that thrown together?
Well, I might be proudest of the last of those titles because it gives me the street credibility that I need to talk about politics today. Things are getting kind of seamy in America, and it takes someone with some street experience to call the shots.
You have been there, my friend, and you've been in our prayers and thoughts. So good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Very excited that our movie Hillary's America has done really well in the box office, coming out in DVD October 11th.
Wow. Any response from Hillary about the movie?
No, dead silence. And that's not entirely surprising. It's not a good idea for her to engage with it. The movie has devastating facts about not only about Hillary and the Clintons, but also about the Democratic Party. I mean, I would love to be able to pose questions to Hillary drawn from the movie because I think it would completely discombobulate her. But no, she's maintained a kind of pretending the movie doesn't exist.
Well, you kind of expect that. Hey, I want to ask you about the race problems in America. It's a huge problem. And we got racial tensions at an all-time high, probably as high as they were back in the 60s. Your thoughts?
Well, I think what we have is an uninhabitable situation in a lot of our inner cities, Oakland, St. Louis, Baltimore, and so on. I call these urban plantations because they have chilling resemblances to the old slave plantations. But the bottom line is that people who live there live lives that are nihilist. There's no hope. You have a basic provision, you get food stamps, and you get this and you get that, but it's very difficult to climb up a ladder of opportunity. And so there's a kind of boiling frustration. Now, we send the police into these places and say, look, you keep the place under wraps, but this is like the job of being an overseer on the old plantation, because it's very difficult to do. There's so much built-in violence in the situation. And so I think these urban plantations are kind of boiling over. And then they blame the cops. So it's not fundamentally a race problem. It's fundamentally the fact that the Democrats have taken advantage of these minorities, not just the blacks, because you've got reservations for the Native Americans and barrios and slums for the Latinos. These are horrible places. And so I'm not exactly surprised that they are boiling over a little bit.
You know, I'm glad to hear you say that because I've often warned our audience, especially those of us who are in small town America, rural America, we really don't understand the problem. I don't think we have the foggiest idea how serious it really is.
Well, try to imagine, growing up in a neighborhood where you don't have a family to look after you, where your only membership comes from a gang, where every time you walk on the street, there are urban youths who kind of control that environment. Your safety is constantly, and then, the cops come in. Now, the cops are kind of on a hair trigger warning because they know that these neighborhoods are really violent and their own lives are at risk. And so you can see what a volatile combination this is from the beginning.
How do you think the president's respond to this? Because it seems to be just totally, I don't know, silent.
And, I predicted in the movie I made about Obama 4 years ago that he's not fundamentally coming out of the Black American experience. This is very alien to him. He spent almost no time in the inner city. He doesn't even talk about it. It's not something that's a concern for him. He's much more concerned with the global stage, with the kind of anti-colonial agenda that motivates him. And then he also likes life on the golf course. There's an article in yesterday's New York Times about how exotic vacations are Obama's thing at the public expense. And so he's been to all kinds of interesting spots around the world, observing whales and doing things like that. And meanwhile, the inner cities continue to fester.
All right. It appears Donald Trump now has tapped into this from the position that, hey, the Democrats have talked about helping you all of these years, and then they get elected and do nothing for you. Is he spot on?
Yeah, he's spot on, not only in terms of getting the black vote, which I think he'll do pretty well in, but also the fact that he's stripping the Democratic Party of its moral capital. The Democrats always like to say, we're the party of the little guy, the outsider, the minority. We're the party that's been there fighting for civil rights and women's rights. Now, nothing could be further from the truth. The Democratic Party actually opposed women's rights, tried to block women's suffrage for 30 years. The Democrats were the main opposition to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the Fair Housing Bill of 68. So the Democrats actually have a very sordid history that they have covered up, and they put the blame on the South or on the white man or on America, but this is all for the crimes that they did.
All right, so do you think those who are trapped in the inner city or these plantations, if you say, do you think they begin to see that Trump may be an alternative? In other words, a lot of them are still going to vote for Hillary because they think that somehow the Democrats are going to give them something. What's happening in the inner city? What's happening in these plantations that would seemingly provide an opportunity for Trump?
Well, the difficulty for Trump is that the Democrats have created a situation where people are really dependent on them. They don't like the fact, I mean, look, these places are totally run by Democrats from top to bottom, and they vote for Democrats by margins of 90% and more. The Democrats have created a situation where they sort of have you, they've strung you up by a rope, and initially they claimed that they were going to pull you up, but now they've pulled you up a little bit and they're holding. So you're hanging in midair, unable to drop to the ground, which is too far, but unable to climb up on your own either. And you're in just one of those helpless positions where you need the Democratic Party now. Why? Because you don't have a good education. You can't get a very good job. These neighborhoods are so dangerous that businesses don't like to go in there. Every time someone proposes to gentrify the neighborhoods, the progressive Democrats block it. So you've got a very unfortunate situation, and it's even if somebody wants to get up and walk off the plantation, it's not that easy to do it.
What come out of this, Dinesh, is that the demonization of the police.
Yeah, and this is what's so ridiculous, because very often you're talking not even about the white cop, but the black cop. It doesn't matter the race of the policeman. Those guys, are sent into these neighborhoods and told, hold the place together. And these are places where when the cop says to somebody, get out of your car, they don't do it. Or freeze, the guy comes running at you, and people make obscene gestures. They wave their arms. You don't know if they're armed or not. You kind of expect that they are, but you're not sure. So the cops need very good training to deal with these situations. But even if they got that, it's not easy for them to do, whether the cop is black or whether he's white.
All right. So what's the answer here? If you had Donald Trump's ear for a little bit on this issue, what would you tell him?
Well, I think that he's been right to affirm the importance of law and order, but I think at the deeper level, we need a kind of root and branch transformation of these neighborhoods, and we know how to do that. I mean, the way to do that is actually to create a whole set of incentives for companies to move in, Starbucks, and you basically want to build lofts and attract high-tech companies. Now, these companies love to be in these inner cities. I mean, they want to be in urban neighborhoods. But what happens is that their presence gets blocked. Now, when you have gentrification, the neighborhoods are transformed, property values go up, there are jobs available. And so I think that's what needs to happen. We need to create entrepreneurial zones in the inner city that allow people to climb up ladders of opportunity.
That's very interesting. Do you think that this is a presidential issue? I mean, do you think you're going to hear more of this in the next 35 days?
Well, I think Hillary's going to try to avoid the topic. They don't want to talk about the inner cities. They want to speak in very generic terms and, all this nonsense about, we're the party of the middle class and so on. Basically, the Democrats are all about extending the power of the federal government over the private sector so that they can run it from the top. It's all about accumulating power and money. And of course, the Clintons have gone from zero to a couple of $100 million. Now, I don't begrudge people who make money, but usually they do it by inventing the iPhone or starting a business. These guys have been on a government salary. So the product that they've been selling, sadly, is public influence, access to power. They've been brokering their position as a powerful senator from New York and then Secretary of State to get money not only from Americans but foreign entities and foreign governments.
You know, the whole Clinton campaign is so interesting in the sense that all of these scandals still don't seem to be diminishing her ratings, her polling. Why?
Well, that is a real mystery. It's a mystery not about Hillary. It's really a mystery about the moral character of the Democratic Party, because while we've elected crooks in America before, we usually didn't know that they were crooks in advance. We found out and threw them out. But when you know in advance and you still push someone forward, what does it say about you? So I think what we have here is a kind of a dismaying recognition that for a lot of Democrats, I mean, they had some alternatives. I won't say they're good alternatives, because, you know, Joe Biden, I mean, Bernie, Rip Van Winkle just woke up from the 20-year nap. But nevertheless, there was a choice, and they decided to go with Hillary because I think at the end of the day, they believe Hillary will deliver the goods for them, whether she is corrupt or not.
All right, my last question for you, because we're running out of time. Where do you think this election's going? How do you think it'll turn out?
Well, I think if it were held today, Hillary would win. She is the front runner. I think there's a very powerful set of forces that are behind Hillary. I mean, she has the media in her back pocket, and those guys are huffing and puffing to drag this woman across the finish line. So Trump has his work cut out for him. I think it's a winnable election for him, but he needs to use all the resources at his disposal, and I'm not sure he's doing that.
Interesting. Thank you, Dinesh. Good to see you. By the way, you can go to DineshD'Souza.com. That's his website. What's next for you? What are you working on?
Well, I've been focused on the election. At this point, we're actually figuring out ways to try to get the DVD out to people who haven't seen it. I'd love for this movie to be seen by Democrats, by independents, by Latinos, by blacks, because I think it will be a very eye-opening, even slightly discombobulating initially experience for them. So I'm focusing on the film, but down the road, we'll see.
Okay. Good to see you again. Stay vigilant, and we'll get together again soon, okay?
Look forward to it. Thank you.
God bless. We'll be right back.